really excited to talk with you. You're actually going to be the first female I've had on the podcast. Um, I know that, and I can't think of a better female climber to be on the podcast than you. Um,
Thanks.
I, you are one of the nicest people, but also like you're an individual when you meet, and you're just like, I don't know, you're very energetic and motivating, and not in like a hyper way. You're just super supportive of, I think, just about anybody you meet. At least, we've never really gotten to go and climb a whole lot together, but every time I meet you, I'm definitely like stoked. And you're just an individual. I think that, I don't know. I feel better about myself when I'm around you. And that's a pretty unique quality, Sarah, that I don't
Thanks.
think a lot of people have. I don't have that effect on people. I know that.
Whatever.
But I don't think I do. I
You
just wish
do.
I was like, I
You're
was
super energetic.
more. I'm always like doubting myself when I'm in front of other people. I think you're really comfortable climbing in front of other people. That's well, see, okay, we'll get through this. Maybe you're not, but you come off like you really are. Um, but you're also like incredibly strong. That I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like you don't get enough credit for as amazing an athlete as you are. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But
Okay.
let's
I'm
kind
gonna
of
leave
dive in.
here with a
Maybe
big hit. I'm super confident the rest of the day, feeling all good about myself. So it's a good start to the morning.
nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me a little bit about like how did climbing come into your life, and like at how old were you when climbing came into your life?
Yeah, I guess I was in university. I went to school in Thunder Bay, which is northern Ontario. If you live in the US, you might not know it. Um, I went there for outdoor rec, parks and tourism, and natural science, and they had a little climbing gym open up, and I went there, and I just fell in love. Like I just totally fell in love. I had tried climbing once before outside when I took an outward bound course, and I was terrified. But then I tried it in this climbing gym, and I just loved being challenged by the movement. That's what I remember the most. Like I just wanted to fail constantly. Like I just wanted to try hard things. That's all I cared about. And then at the end of school, I went on a road trip with some friends I met at this little climbing comp, and we drove from like northern Ontario all the way to Joshua Tree. And yeah, it was an amazing trip, and I just really fell in love with climbing after that. Um, did my
And
first
was that
multi
mainly
pit.
rock climbing at that time?
Yeah, I was just rock climbing. Yeah, I didn't try
Okay.
ice climbing until I came to the Canadian Rockies in my 20s, mid to late 20s, really. Yeah. But I
And
fell
you
in love with
said
rock climbing, and I just wanted to get a truck and live out of my truck and rock climb. That's pretty much what I wanted to do. Now it's the norm, but back then it really wasn't, like
no, back then it wouldn't have been. No, some people would have called you quite crazy for wanting to go live in the back of your truck and just go climbing. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's not really one of the like when you're coming out of college would be in the 5 year plan for most people. It's probably not in there. So
No.
you said that you enjoyed failing though, like is
Mhm.
not something
Yeah.
that most people enjoy.
Well, I don't know if I fully enjoyed it, but it actually drove me like to want more. Yeah. Like it just, I really didn't, it was fun to have success on something, but it was more fun to have to try harder and harder and harder and like try again and again and again and then have success on it. Like, yeah, all those failures were added a lot to the reward. I think you don't always get the
And
reward in the end, but still, I think that process is what I love about climbing.
do you still to this day throw yourself at stuff that you might fail on, like on purpose?
All the time. I mean, I want to have success with it at some point. I think like I'm not perpetually in a good mood when I'm failing all the time, but yeah, it's nice to like try something that seems impossible and then like work towards it. I mean, that's the biggest gift in life, right? Like it's totally transferable to everything in life. If you don't think something's possible, but you invest everything into it, maybe not everything, but you invest a lot into it and you keep trying, you find the problems to solve, and then you get there. Yeah, then you wonder what's next, right? You wonder what else you can do. So that's the addictive
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
But it's impressive that you still like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of when the last time is I threw myself at something I knew I would fail at.
Really?
Um, I really like to try to set myself up for success. Maybe it just helps my ego a little bit. I don't know. But I, I think it's, I don't like failing. Um, and so it's, I think I'm really hard on myself when it comes to failing. Like instead of, and I like the way, and I was trying to figure out how to use failure as more of a motivation versus just beating myself up. I think that's a challenge for me.
Right.
Um, so I'm kind of curious, like, how does that, like, is there, I don't know, maybe you can talk through like an example too, like something that you knew you would fail at, like you're sitting in your house and you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do that, but I'm going to go do it. Like, do you have an example of that?
Well, honestly, that like a few years ago when I tried my that link up idea
Oh yeah.
in the Waitress to try to do hydro, cryo, and no phobia in a day. You know, I really didn't have much luck going in there leading up to it. Like I would ski, drive 2 hours, ski in for 2 hours, get there, uh, climb a pitch and a half, something would happen, or I would suck, or I would fall, or I'd be afraid. And it would get dark, and I'm like, okay, I got to turn around and ski out again. But it was really weird. Something I did notice in myself, like I would find it really frustrating in the moment that I wasn't doing well, or that I didn't have the right mindset to push. And I was like, this is impossible. It's never going to happen. I haven't even climbed 2 pitches, and I'm going to try to do like 13 in a day. Like, but by the time I was skiing out, had all these positive thoughts in my head again, like, yeah, I'm going to go back and it's going to be different. And like, I just had this like happy vision of how things would improve. I don't know where it came from, but it started to come in as soon as I was skiing away from it. And the whole drive back and at home. And then like the next day I found myself, training on the splice again, or going to the gym and be like, yep, I can do this. I don't know where it came from. I actually don't know.
Wow.
But yeah,
It's
something.
almost
Yeah.
like you're
Hopeful.
able to harness the mental power. Like, because some people, like, well, me, like, I'll beat myself up, right? Instead of working like, if I fail, then I just beat myself up. Whereas you're almost using that to strengthen yourself mentally of like, no, I can do this. And then when it comes to it, because we all know that, half of these things is physical strength, the other half is the mental strength. And, you could argue the half and half. But anyways, like mental strength is a huge piece of it, right? Like if you I always
Totally.
felt like if I'm standing at the base and I know I can do it and I'm confident, I'm going to do it. But if I have doubts in my mind at the base, then I'm screwed. I'm not going to make it. But it seems like that maybe you going in and kind of testing yourself and having some failures there, that you use that to motivate yourself versus go the other direction.
Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it either. I think the fear of failure is greater than the fear of, or the fear of not trying is greater than the fear of failure, maybe. Like I think that's what it
Yeah.
is for me. It's like if I don't feel like I've given it my all, that I know it's my all, then that sucks worse than giving it your
Hmm.
all and then failing at it. Like that part I can handle because I've done
Yeah.
everything I can. It's more that curiosity of like, can I get myself to try as hard as I can? And then if I do that, what's possible? I guess that's the part that intrigues me mentally, mostly.
Yeah. Because in watching the Not Alone and watching you on that crux pitch of Nephobia, like it looked like you're watching the video. You was like, I don't know, she's get like it. The first time I watched it, I'm like, I think she's gonna blow. I don't know. Like you look pretty pumped,
I was,
and I'm like, it did not. It looked. I'm like, I've seen myself like that. And that's about where in your mind you're like, you're holding on for dear life. Like it's not. You're out well outside the comfort zone, and
Yeah.
then obviously, you're able to keep together and go for the send. I mean, that had you sent that pitch clean prior to that day?
In a previous year I had, yeah.
Oh, in a previous year.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
other than that, like I had only tried that pitch like once once that year or so. Like I really didn't, like I said, have much success in my training days out there at all. But I knew I had done it before at some point in my life. So it's like, well, like I
It's
just
still
have
there.
it's still gotta be there, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty awesome. So for you, when did mixed climbing then start to kind of roll into your life? We'll call it mixed and ice.
Well, it's kind of funny because I came to the Rockies to be a rock guide. And so I did my rock guide certification and I was all stoked on that. And then I went into the local guiding office and I was like, hey, what work can I get here? And they're like, we don't really need rock guides. We need alpine guides. And I was like, oh, great. I guess I have to learn to ice climb. And I really hated it at first. Like, I thought it was the stupidest thing, I'll be honest. It was like, I was cold. Like, you can swing and kick anywhere. I don't get this. It's just, yeah, it was uncomfortable. Um,
And how old were you then?
hmm, you know, I guess late
Okay.
20s, early 30s. Yeah. But yeah, it's what you do here in Canada. So like 8 months of winter. So you got to learn to ice
Yeah.
climb. So I kept at it foolishly. Um, but yeah, no, of course I learned to love it as you do, right? It's super addictive. But I didn't really get into mixed climbing till late 30s. Yeah. And
Okay.
then because I was always scared of mixed climbing, especially vertical mixed climbing. You know how scary that can be. You don't really know
Yeah.
what your tool is on and whenever it's going to pop. I think I had a tool pop in my face at one point and I didn't like that. So I was pretty scared of it. But then I learned about like, oh, overhanging mixed climbing is like, you kind of know your pick is not going to fail because all your weight's on it already. So there's nothing
Yeah.
like, so it's just a matter of holding on. And that seemed a lot more interesting at the time. Anyway, that's kind of what made me get into it more. Now I like all types of mixed climbing again, but I think the steep stuff was more interesting there for a while, just
Interesting.
because yeah, it was safer feeling for a bit.
And were you a pretty strong rock climber before getting into that? Like,
Um,
I mean, I feel like you're strong in
relatively,
everything. So,
like not to today's standards, but I was climbing 513, I guess, so it
okay,
was
you're
um
strong.
I could hold on a little bit, but it's still different with tools, right? It's whole
Yeah.
different experience, as you know.
But was that transition kind of like seamless for you a little bit? Like, I mean, did it take much for you to kind of start sending some of the some harder routes, or did it like what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, I guess once I like found out that I really liked it and I liked the process of yeah, trying hard on my tools, then I guess things kind of went pretty quickly from like M9 to, well, I don't know, whatever the M's are these days. Like in a few years or a couple,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
mean, and
it
then
made me wonder, like, where are the rest of the women out here doing it at the time? Like, there weren't that many, and I was like, why not? Like, there's so many stronger women than me out here that could be crushing this stuff, but the interest just, I guess, wasn't there. Now it's great to see there's a lot more women.
yeah, there's a lot more, but still nowhere near as many as you would think. And I've always found that women tend to be much better mixed climbers from the start. Guys
Really?
are always like, yeah, I just feel like they use their entire body
Hmm.
versus guys are kind of like all muscle, like, they pump out, right? Whereas I think females seem to utilize their legs and it's much more like gymnastic versus Hulk smash, and I'm gonna, go up and so I feel like they tend to move a lot better than guys do. But I would agree that I mean, there's a lot more women and there's some really strong ones, but
Mm.
I'm just still surprised there's not more.
Yeah.
Um, do you think it's like an intimidation thing or an access thing to like what from a, from your perspective, like, do you feel like the world of ice climbing and mixed climb is pretty like, I mean, is it hard for women to get into the sport?
No, I think, you know, I could go down a couple different roads, um,
Hey, we
with
got
that
time.
one. Yeah, but, I could say that women are smarter. No, no, they're I mean, I think women are just more risk adverse in general. Like, it's a total generalization, and I hate to make those, but, um, that's a big barrier. I think there is way more hazard in, like, actual mixed climbing in the mountains,
Yeah.
than going sport climbing. Um, so I think that's a big factor, and I think the cold environment is a big factor too. Like I speak
Yeah.
to so many women, and they really struggle with staying warm, and I think men do too. But like those awesome guys, Tim and Ken, who we both have ice climbed with, you know, Ken can come from California and day one be out there and be totally warm, and I'm getting the barfies 3 times that day, and I'm in the Rockies the whole season, right? So I don't know. I think being cold can really be a hindrance.
Yeah.
And it's taken a while. It's taken a while for women to catch up with outdoor clothing and gear and all that stuff. That now we have a lot of that, but a lot of women still can't even find ice boots that fit them. So there
Hmm.
still are some barriers there too.
Yeah. I mean, I've been really lucky and had been able to climb with some really strong women. Dawn Glantz back in the day. Um, Laura, Laura and Josh. I mean, I wish she was still climbing because she was ridiculously strong, just very
Yeah.
naturally. And Natalie Afonia. Like I've climbed with some really great female athletes. And I have found that I remember I asked that question because I wonder if it's hard for female climbers to find other female climbers who are psyched, or if there's also, I know that there's an issue with like men that have girlfriends or wives where they're like, you're not going to go climb with a girl. Like my first wife was like, oh, you're not, you can't go, like, you're not going climbing with her. And I'm like, what do you think's going to happen? Like, it's 20 or 15 degrees. Like, like, what do you think is like, and Kelly, and Kelly is just like, she doesn't care. Like, there's obviously a respect that's there, but like, she understands they're my friends, and I can have the same experiences with my guy friends as I can with the girlfriends and stuff like that. Not girlfriends, but you know what I mean. And So she's been really like very understanding of that. But I don't think many people in the relationships don't necessarily have that. Which I just have always wondered if that's an issue for women trying to get into the sport.
Well, I mean, there's there's a lot of news in that department these days, right? Too, on the other side of
Yeah.
that. So, um,
Yep.
you know, that's kind of been, unfortunately, a bit of the norm of women getting, often being shown a sport by men. There's always going to be a dynamic there, I would say.
Yeah.
So I think it's understandable, that some wives or girlfriends would feel that way, but yeah, I think whenever there's a power dynamic there of someone showing someone else a sport, like that, there's a power dynamic. That's all. So
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
can evolve from that in different ways. Um, but yeah, it's not like just going to the climbing gym with your girlfriends. You need to gain the skills to go out there and be self sufficient, and that requires more effort than just going to the gym for sure, and
Yeah.
usually requires a mentor or something like that, and um, or taking courses be
Yeah.
another way to get out. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I mean, my wife, is a very strong female in my life, and my daughter, and I'm very happy to have those people. I've learned, I don't know, I, they're, they create some good humbling for me, you know. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So, um, what you've never really like, at least from my understanding, never really kind of gone to the alpine with climbing, whether that's, you know, mixed climbing, ice climbing, like, well, I shouldn't say ice climbing, but like big mountain type stuff, right? Like that's never really been your thing. And is that because early on you just understood the dangers that were there? And I mean, I feel like obviously as you get to those bigger mountains, there's less and less stuff that you can control. But was there a certain point in your career when, you know, you really kind of had to think about that, or is that just something you've always avoided, or is it something that has attracted you at certain points?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I kind of first started out, I did do some bigger trips. Like I went to, um, the far west end of China into Tibet. Went to the Genyan Massif, and we climbed a couple new peaks that were like just under 20,000 feet. That were pretty technical. With the Shipman Tillman Award, I went with a couple Americans.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then, I've done the Bolivia thing, Ecuador, like South America kind of climbing stuff. Then when I came here to Canada, I think um, being an alpine guide, you're in the alpine a lot, like a lot. And
Yeah.
you're doing, I mean, it's not, it's 1 day ascents or 2 or 3 day ascents. It's not like big mountain technical stuff, but it's a lot of time in a hazardous environment. And so I think on my days off, like I just didn't want more of that. Like I really wanted to, like, I think I've always been attracted to pushing myself, that curiosity of what I could do physically, mentally, in a safe environment, which sounds crazy because I'm an ice climber, mixed climber. I go into the mountains and it's not a safe
Yeah.
environment at all. But, when you're clipping bolts, it's a lot safer than in the Himalayas, somewhere
Yeah.
up big ice face, right? Um, I would love to be up on that big ice face. I would love to climb those mountains, but I don't like the risk at all. And I'm a control freak. I always have been. I don't like being scared all day. I don't like crossing my fingers. I don't like holding my breath. I don't like any of that stuff. And yeah, so I guess I learned a while ago that that's just not how I want to yeah, spend my days being scared.
Yeah. Do you feel like that changed for you? Because obviously you were doing things earlier. Did that change with age? Did that change as you just learned more? Like, what do you think was the factor there?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a conscious thing, but over time you have enough, like you see enough, you lose enough friends, you yeah, experience enough things that yeah, it probably does just kind of like build up in the back of your brain. You're like, yep, gonna avoid those things now without even maybe making a conscious decision. Um, yeah, and now even after 5 years ago, after I lost my friend in the avalanche ice climbing, I haven't even been into avalanche terrain since then, which is really limiting as an ice climber, a mixed climber, to not
Yeah.
Rockies. It's like you can't go many places. But I think once you've seen the realities of what can happen when you really don't expect it to happen, who's to say it's not going to happen again, right? Like that
Yeah.
you have to be either really ignorant towards it or accepting, one or the other. And I'm definitely not ignorant towards it, and I definitely don't want to accept that outcome anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't. So yeah,
Yeah. It's hard. I feel like I've been the same way. Like early on, I mean, I think I would throw myself at just about anything that I just didn't, you know, I don't know if it was a factor. Well, for sure it was a factor. I just didn't know any better.
right.
And I hadn't had friends that I had lost yet, you know, or I'd maybe had a couple, but I was like, oh, I won't make the same mistake they did, you know, which is just ridiculous. Um, but then over the years and enough close calls and enough friends, you start to realize like I'm really no different. Like I've just been luckier. at the end of the day. I mean, yes, there's things you can control, but there's a whole lot of things you can't control, and you can't keep telling yourself you're just going to keep, having control and being that lucky, because eventually it's just going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I quit kayaking the way that I was, because it's like, this is just a matter of time. You can't be running, class 5 and then climbing the way I was and expect that you're going to have a long, long life. It's just, that's ignorant. Um, for for you, how did, well,
Well,
was
can I
there
ask you a question, Aaron?
yeah,
Like, how do you still like? I've been reading your posts when you climb, skinnier freestanding daggers. Let's say, like,
yeah,
I mean, what's the process when you embark on that still?
it's very different for me. I had, let's see, I think it was 3 years ago. I had one that I knew was like 50-50. It was a mixed climb, and then you hopped onto that dagger that was like barely touching. So I knew with the temperatures that it was, there was a good chance that it could collapse. What I didn't have in my mind is thinking about, I was thinking more about myself and less about, okay, if this thing does collapse, what happens to my belayer? Right. So that wasn't really necessarily, like, it was sort of in the thought, but not fully there. And sure enough, it broke with, even being really, like, it was just like, still this day, like the feeling is in my head, like just that one tap and boom, it disappears below me. And I remember not instantly thinking it's gonna kill my belayer. And so my first thought was to traverse back to the bolt and secure myself. Um, and I did that and was able to talk to him. And literally, he was the pillar went by him by a foot. It rolled right by him, and it was a giant piece of ice, right? And I was kind of like, wow, that was really close. Like, what did I learn from that? Well, I was completely safe. I wasn't going to put any screws into it anyways. There was a bolt that was 10 feet off to my right. But then literally 2 days later, I'm walking up to another climb, and the pillar wasn't touching. And I was like, oh, I wonder if maybe I could do the mix climb behind it. And literally, as I'm walking underneath this pillar, it detaches. And that's all I heard was just the crack. And I knew exactly. And
Yeah.
I turned around and ran as fast as I could, and got really lucky. And I was like, okay, there's a sign here. You need to listen. And that's it. Maybe you've gotten a little too comfortable climbing pillars. And even neither of those had anything to do with pillars, like literally climbing a skinny pillar. It was like, these things are really much like avalanche terrain. Like, it could be a perfect day and there
Yeah.
could be zero risk and you can still get caught in an avalanche. And I think that's where I'm at with pillars now, is like, is it really worth it to me? And even when they look really good, and then, that pillar that, oh, I can't remember her name. She
Well,
died last year in Salt Lake. Like, all of us would have climbed that pillar and not even thought about it breaking. Like, it was giant,
yeah.
And so it just, those things in series have really made me think about it. Now, there are certain, like, I did one skinnier pillar this year, but I felt really good about it. Like, the temperatures were perfect. The attachment point was perfect. Like, everything was perfect, right? Which I know is like, you're like, Sarah, like, yeah, keep convincing yourself. Um,
No, it's just so
and
funny because you just said it's
I
everything
know,
is perfect, and
I know.
it's just
I think
funny.
it was like everything seemed as good as it was going to be. And like, am I walking away because I'm scared? Yes, that would be the reason to walk away. But like, how much of everything lines up that is also good? Um, and I think even after doing that, I think I beat myself up a little bit. Like, really, was it worth it? No, I mean, obviously, if I died or been seriously injured, it absolutely wasn't worth it. Um, and I walk away from way more stuff now than I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and I try to talk to younger climbers about that too, right? Because it's like, there was a pillar, a few years ago that had touched, and I'd never seen it touch. And a friend of mine was, really wanting to get on it, and it was like, it was cracked, and it was cracked at a leaning against, so it was gonna, like, as it collapsed, it was gonna go into the wall, right? It wasn't gonna go away from it. And it wasn't a hard pillar, but he really wanted to do it. And I was just like, this is not worth it. Like, it's already cracked. Like, there's a lot of weight hanging on that right now. Like, the climbing's not hard. That's not like, so like, there's just no reason to do this. And I talked him out of it twice. And then the next time he was like, I'm going to go do it. And I was like, I'm telling you, like, it's just not worth it. And he was going to do it no matter what. So I'm like, well, at least I can go up and maybe be the voice of reason once he's there. And sure enough, it had broken and it collapsed
Wow.
exactly how I said it was. Like, it would have killed you for sure. Like, you're not going to fall away. It all fell into itself into the wall in this giant pile, right? And then it touched again last year, and it wasn't cracked. And I walked up to that thing 4 times, thinking every day it was going to get better and better. But unfortunately, the way it forms, like the water starts to go away from it after it touches.
Mm.
Um, and I stood there and I was like, "This is not a hard pillar, but like I could climb it and I could get away with it, but I could also not. And is it worth it?" And it just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't like, it wasn't worth it to me. And it just didn't. I think because I'd seen it collapse too. Like, I was like, I know it's capable. The temperatures were pretty good then too. But so I don't know. I mean, I go back and forth on it.
It's interesting to hear. Like, I think a lot of people, a lot of young climbers, may not realize how much you've analyzed and studied and looked at these daggers and pillars, right? Like, there's a lot of thought process that goes into it, and it can still go right or wrong. I'm not saying that you've made the best decisions in pillar climbing in the world,
Oh,
but
I haven't.
like you've, yeah, but yeah, there, it does, like, that's the same thing with Will. People think he's a big risk taker, but he analyzes situations that he goes into and really tries to, like, know as much as he can about things. It's not just, oh, this looks cool, let's just try it, let's just kind of
Yeah,
gamble. That's not how it works. You got to, like, at
yeah,
least try to understand as much as you can understand first. But
yeah.
yeah.
Eliminate as much of the risk as possible, but at the end of the day, you're never going to eliminate it all.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. But and I've had this conversation on with other people too, of like, how can we do a better job of teaching and educating the younger climbers that, you know, and I don't know that there is. I don't know. I think, would you, you know, in my mid 20s and even early 30s, told me anything different than what I wanted to do? Probably not, you know. But I feel like there's got to be a way that, I don't know. We've lost a lot of people,
Yeah.
um, and they seem to be. Doesn't matter whether they're young or older. Like, it doesn't really pick by age or by experience, and that worries me. It's funny. There's certain people where I'm like, gotta really worry about this individual. And I've seen this before. I've seen how this plays out, and that it's hard. But you don't want to be like that old person that's like, don't go do anything, because you're never going to tell anybody to do that. But I don't know. It's just a struggle.
I think it is about, though, sharing more stories. I think every time I see someone like yourself posting something about decision making, or things that have happened to you, or reflections you're having, those are, yeah, they're really valuable. It's not, social media can has moved from just the spray fest, and I think it can add a lot of value if we show all of our humanness on it.
Yeah,
um oh
I
yeah.
I fail at that. I think I can do a much better job. I think it's hard for me to put myself out there sometimes.
It's hard for all.
For the yeah, yeah. Um, uh, I think one thing I definitely want to talk about is the accident, because it's really I don't from my perspective, it was a pivotal moment in your life. I'm sure there were plenty more before that, but that one seems to be the one that stands out. You don't need to go into it in full detail, but just for people listening, if you could kind of just give a brief of that experience. And I would also recommend that people watch the movie Not Alone. It's on YouTube and probably some other places. But could you kind of like give talk a little bit about that experience if you're
Yeah, I
comfortable with
mean,
it?
briefly, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run a lot of women's courses. That was kind of my passion, and I ran them all with my really good friend Sonia Finlitter, and she would be the camp manager, and I'd be the guide, and yeah, we ran rock camps and alpine camps and ice climbing camps, and lots of them, lots and lots. And we'd often run them out of field because it's kind of the mecca in the Canadian Rockies. And that particular year was we couldn't run it till March because of the dates of something. Um, but we had a great group, and I hired a few guides. And the second day, we all went out multi pitching, which is kind of what the camps do. We do like a day of cragging, and then we do days of multi pitching where I'd hire other guides to take the women out multi pitching, and uh, so two guides went to Massey's with two clients each, and I went to Guinness. Another client went to Carlsberg, another one to Guinness Stout, and I had a good day climbing and guiding, and finished my day and was driving back to the hostel when we saw an avalanche coming down, and I knew it was where those two groups were climbing that day. So I just got my avalanche gear and ran as fast as I could to get there. There was a train coming though, which made it quite hard. But I ran there, and all of their avalanche gear, they had all brought avalanche gear because that's what we do when we're in avalanche terrain here, ice climbing. Got swept away because it was just at the bottom, the base. They were just kind of finishing up for the day, and it all got swept away. So they were just digging with their hands. And so I came in with a shovel and probe, and we were, able to get Sonia out. Another woman was also buried to her neck. We got her out. And we did CPR for Sonia for a while until the helicopter came. But we got her to the hospital, and then she died a day later. And
And oh, go ahead.
no, that's that. Yeah.
It was also like a low avalanche risk day. Had you ever seen an avalanche come off of that before?
No, I mean, clearly I know there's avalanche terrain above it.
Yeah.
It's prominent, and you can see the entire terrain above that climb in particular. A lot of the climbs you can't see the terrain above it, but I know that there is a lot of terrain above those places. And I'd been guiding out there for 20 years. And I hired the guides I hired all had guided out there a lot and very conservative, and avalanche forecasts had improved in the last few days, and it hadn't snowed in a while. It was moderate, low, low. It was a beautiful day that day. It wasn't snowing. It wasn't windy. It was
Yeah.
like, all those things, right? Of course, when it happens, though, after it happens, the hindsight that it happened is like, you shouldn't have been there. Like, obviously, there was an avalanche. Why were you there? You're an avalanche terrain. Like, why would you go there? And I mean, it just destroyed me and it's still, the thought of it destroys me. It's like completely heartbreaking. And I asked myself, why were they there too? Like, why, why? But, we thought it was safe. We really did. And the guides that were out there obviously thought it was safe. They were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, there's not probably a better group of people that could have made that decision, more experience and everything else. And I think it just speaks to, you can't eliminate it all, right? You can't eliminate the risk. Like, I mean, it's just, there's always going to be some uncontrolled risk that's there.
mhm.
Um, And I think that it's important for people to understand that. Like, I mean, I know when it happened, I was like, I mean, I know you well, but I know the other people that were there. I know they're really experienced guides. It's like everybody, every experienced guide that knew their stuff would have made the same decision of going there. Like it didn't. There was no. There wasn't anything saying don't go there. And so that's tough, right? Like, but at the same time, like, I mean, it could have been, it was an avalanche. It could have been a giant chunk of ice coming down something like it, there's a number of other factors that could have been there, but um, it's tough. And I know that it changed a lot of things for you. It was a really, really difficult time. I think that's one of the things, honestly, that worries me the most about even guiding people is just like you have a sense of responsibility, that no matter how good the decisions were, the sense of responsibility still remains. And I've never been in that position, but I can't even imagine. Like, I just know how much the responsibility stresses me out,
Mhm.
and then to have something like that happen, even though I know you probably beat yourself up, but you made the same decision any other really well experienced guide would have made. Um, how has that experience changed things for you when it comes to both, honestly, personally, but also in climbing, in the climbing world?
Oh man, that's changed everything. I mean, first of all, leading up to that, like I said, I've been guiding, yeah, like 20 years. And honestly, I have had no rescues, no big near misses. Like I've had a super fortunate career. But I also feel like I'm the type of person that's extremely hyper vigilant. I'm out there and I'm like looking around. Like, I'm sure every guide is, but I'm like always looking for the what ifs, what can go wrong, what would I do? Um, yeah, it's exhausting, right? Guiding can be exhausting. You get home and you're like, oh, okay, I'm like, there's nothing that can jump out at me right now. But like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's how I lived my whole career, was that way. I guess how it's changed things for me now is I always knew things could happen. Like you always know that that's a possibility. You're not an idiot. You're trained in the mountains and you're hyper vigilant, all those things. But when something happens that you really don't expect to happen and you have the worst possible outcome, it makes you very, very untrusting, I'd say, just untrusting of everything. Like, and you have to have some sort of, I don't know, trust when you go in the mountains, I guess. Not just trust
yeah,
in yourself and the people you're with, but just trust that the day is going to go okay, or you're not going to have any fun at all out there. Um, and I've just had to really limit the risks that I put myself in now, that I put others in. I can't, I can't experience something like that again. Like, I just
no,
know that for myself.
yeah.
um,
Has has it taken? Is it harder to enjoy the experiences outside a little bit just because you know of the risk that's there, or is choosing the routes that you go to kind of helps eliminate some of that stress?
yeah, I mean, for sure, you can eliminate um, the risk of some overhead hazard in some places you go. So that can be eliminated to an extent. Although for a while there, I thought just everything could still, it's amazing. Like a big ice climb can actually slough a fair amount of snow. So even an ice climb itself, like the Weeping Wall or hydrophobia, just the snow on the climb on a snowy day could be enough to knock you off, could bury someone at the base. Like these things can still happen even in almost class one terrain.
Yeah,
Um, so there is that. But this is what I think about now a lot. um, where was I gonna? I keep losing my train of thought. Sometimes I start talking about this stuff and I like totally disassociate. Still, it's been 5 years, but it's like just
yeah,
like talking about it goes to this place where I'm like, okay, I need a safe place to go. I'm just not gonna
yeah,
be there anymore.
totally.
That's
Yeah,
reality. Yeah, but I think
yeah,
what I want to say is like, that the accident had two big traumatic impacts for me. One was the accident itself and losing my really, really, really great friend, Sonia, and seeing how her family, how amazing her family and friends were during that situation and continue to be. And then the aftermath of that accident came with a ton of trauma as well. Like, I just, yeah, there were some people who really disliked the ACMG, and it was, I would say, the motives there were, yeah, to kind of like destroy the ACMG in some ways through that whole accident, and at, my expense, at the guide's expense. And that had a huge cost, emotionally and mentally, for me. It just made me not trust not just the mountains, but relationships and humans as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when something that there's guilt and there's shame, and shame is when you're basically told you're a bad person, or you feel like you're a bad person because of something you've done. That's really hard to swim out of. Like, that's a really deep hole.
Oh yeah.
So it took a lot of work to get to where I am today. Now again, after that, I'd say,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I have to imagine that because I remember, I mean, you didn't even climb for a while, right? I mean, it
I didn't
took
leave my
some.
house for a while. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Like,
you didn't even leave your house for a while. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty deep dark hole. And I mean, I think it's hard to imagine that.
yeah.
Um, what are some of the things that kind of helped you come out of that?
Well, I mean, the two big things that came out of it for me were what could be better for the future. Like, that's really, I had to kind of put my energy into a direction that made this whole accident meaningful beyond myself, right? Me just like beating myself up and feeling like I'm a shit person, or committing suicide, or never climbing again, whatever it is, that doesn't improve anything, right? And
Yeah.
I really felt like I had to do better for Sonia. Like, something has to come from this. And so the two questions I had was like, okay, how does there's mountain accidents all the time. Like, what do we do for these people that survive the mountain accidents? Or that do lose people there, or like, what do we do for our community in the shit times? Like, what's out there for those people, for me? And so I kind of started, well, it was a therapist's idea, Janet McLeod. She was awesome. She suggested I meet up with some other guides that had experienced kind of similar things. And so I met up with Barry Blanchard and Todd Gwynn, and all of a sudden I felt like I could be myself again a little bit. They just understood. I didn't have
Hmm.
to like wear this cloak of shame and be, yeah, just hiding from the world. And that was super powerful. And so then we got a bigger group together, and we did that for a year. And now, like, I'm still the executive director of the Mountain Muskox. That's what we're called. And it's for anyone who's experienced loss or trauma in the mountains. And we run circles once a month, professionally facilitated circles once a month. We have a chapter here in the Bow Valley, a chapter in the Sea to Sky. We're starting one in Golden and one in Nelson. And yeah, my hope is just that we can have like a Mountain Muskox chapter in every mountain town, because whether you've lost, like, whether there's been a loss of life or an injury, it can be a loss of identity. It can be a loss of feeling like you're part of a
Yeah.
community. It doesn't take a massive accident. It can be a near miss that really shakes people and makes them feel like they don't belong in, you know, in Canmore anymore. They don't belong in Squamish anymore because they fucked up and they're a bad person, right? And they can't talk about it. And like, it's just, when I, we kind of shake our heads, but it's brutal. Like we're
Yeah.
humans, and it's a big world out there, and everyone's doing their best. And so these circles are meant to just, yeah, keep people healthy, basically. So,
When was there certain people that helped you kind of come out of that dark place? And were those people close friends prior to it, or were they friends that understood like they had been through those things before? Like I'm just trying to think of for people listening that have been in those tough places. And I it doesn't necessarily need to be like, you're in that dark place because of climbing, but in general, like were there certain what were there key people that helped you, or was it, I mean, I'm sure it was a combination maybe of you also helping understand some things, but I'm sure talking to people and those certain individuals is maybe what helped you. I'm just kind of curious.
um, yeah, I mean, people definitely help. Um, you have to be in a place though where you're open to hearing people. You know what I mean? That takes a while sometimes. Um, but I would say the people that helped the most were those that, honestly, that just didn't even need to know stuff. Like I think that's the thing after like an accident, you feel like you got to like tell someone like everything. That's why I had to tell them like the temperature and the snow amounts like 5 days before. I had to tell them all my decision making,
Hmm.
all the things that led up to it, and then what happened, and it was exhausting. And now when I hear that someone has had an accident, I'm just like, I'm really sorry that happened. I just try to hear how they're doing with their emotions afterwards, and just listen and remind them they're a good person, and that they were doing everything they thought they should be doing at the time. Like no one was out to do anything wrong. No one went out there thinking they were going to have a bad day. Remind them
Yeah.
that they were just doing the same thing they were doing every day with the same intention, with the same thought process, and that things happen. That's really all, and
Yeah.
listening to that. I don't need to know what happened exactly. Like it's irrelevant. I know that the human being was out there doing their best, and something shitty happened, and now they have to live with it. So what are we going to do now? How are we going to
Yeah.
help you live with this?
It's more
Yeah.
like you need people there to support you, not ask you questions,
Yeah.
about what happened or whatever else, which just tends to be where people go. Um, and maybe they do that both for personal reasons, but also thinking that maybe that's helping you navigate it by talking through it. But really, it sounds to me like it's more like, no, you just need somebody there that's, hey, what do you need right now, Sarah? Like I'm sorry you went through this, but what can I do for you right now versus asking you questions.
My hope is that we care for each other more in the mountain community for the lows as well. And I think there is a lot of care out there, and it's changing, and people are having different reactions and learning. Um, yeah, it's changing, but I think
Yeah.
we should just all work
I
towards that
think
better.
social media has made it worse because somebody like all it takes is one, right? You
Mm.
could have all these people that whether they're commenting or they're reaching out to you, that could be really positive things. But the one person, for me personally, like I always attach everything to that one person's negative comment, which
Yeah.
is so stupid, like and my wife would be like, there's 20 other comments that are really positive. Why are you focusing on the one negative? Like, why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, because it feels personal, like she's like, yeah, but like all these other people have said these positive things. Why would you let this one negative person cast a shadow over all of that? And I was like, I don't know. I wish I could better understand it, and I wish I could not care. And I
Mhm.
think some people are better at just not caring about that. Like, but as a community, I do think we can tear each other down like extremely well. We do. It's bad,
Mhm.
um, and we don't think about what is that person going through and how are they dealing with those things. Um, we can do better. We can do better. I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah.
I think we just tell ourselves, is this really what this person needs to hear right now?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the post might be. Like we just social media has made it really easy to make a negative comment and never look at you in the eye, you know.
Yeah.
But there's somebody behind that, um, and you don't know what they're going through, you
Right.
know. So
Or
yeah.
there's a loved one reading these comments about the
Oh yeah.
person they lost, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it just seems so heartless sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit, change the subject here a little bit. Obviously, you are married to a very well-known climber.
Mhm.
Um, what's it like being in a relationship with somebody that has the same drive as you, and you guys also share the same passions? And I think a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what I want. I want somebody that does exactly what I do, and they have the same love for it, so we can all do these things together." And then I come from not having that. Kelly likes climbing, but she doesn't like it like I do, and I actually really like that. I actually think it might be more difficult to be in a relationship that somebody has the same passion. But I'm curious what your experience is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's evolved, because for a while there, we loved doing climbing trips together, and it was great. Like, do all these things together and share this passion. Um, but I think it's changed a little bit just because of my experience that we just talked about. Like, I have less desire to do maybe some of the trips that Will wants to do. And so we've started to do maybe a bit of our own things as well. Um, I think I don't know if you need to share the same passion, just as long as you need to understand what passion is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
as long as you and your partner both are passionate about something, then you can come together and chat about that, or just um, have that in common. It doesn't have to be the thing that you do together. Of course, if I were to go climbing, my number one partner is Will. That's who I'd want to climb with first and foremost, or go biking with, or go for a walk with. He's the
yeah,
person I like spending time with, right? Which is great, and I am lucky I get to do those things with him. Um, but I don't think that's the be all end all for sure in a relationship. Yeah.
yeah. Have you? I'm curious. I mean, I've run into this with my wife where I want to go do something and she doesn't want to do it because of the risk.
Yeah.
Um, and it's tough for me because it's like, oh, this is it. It fuels me in a way to have a little bit of risk, even if it's, there's controlled and whatever else. It's not like I want her to go climb anything sketchy, but like risk to her looks very different than it looks for me. Um, and we have that challenge sometimes, and I'm trying to get better at like, you know, not enjoying this in coming to where she's at to enjoy that same experience and trying to feel fulfilled from that without needing the risk that goes with it. But it can be challenging at times. She's like, I just don't want to do it. And I'm like, well, but it's not that risky. It's like totally simple. Like, this is what it is. She's like, and my wife has you're not going to convince her, like she's just like, no, like, I'm like, come on, but no, like there's no convincing. Once she's made the decision, it's not happening. And for her and I, like she used to go anywhere. I mean, she went to Norway with me. I drug her up all kinds of stuff, like,
Yeah.
and as she likes to say, she was in, La La Land of like, oh, he's so cute. And she would go anywhere, do it. And now she knows enough to know, okay, wow, there's some real risks here that I wasn't aware of. And she's been with me. We've been together long enough. She's seen people pass and like,
Mhm.
and so it's hard for me because I could go anywhere with her and do all these things. And now it's like, you know, uh, it's, she's more knowledgeable and she can kind of ask the right questions. And then that determines whether she wants to do it or not. Like, have you guys had to have those challenges of like where Will really wants to go and do something, but you're just like, no, I just like, I know I'm not going to enjoy it and it's risky. Like, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Oh, for sure. Lots of times. That's why, like, we honestly know better now than to kind of put ourselves in that situation if we can avoid it. Because, yeah, I know it takes me a lot longer to feel comfortable in an environment than it takes him. Like, he can kind of assess things out pretty quickly and identify his tolerance for that area. And for me, I like to tiptoe into things. I like to know, like, I like to come back to things, then like, I don't like the on-site. I like to red point things basically.
Yeah.
And he loves the unknowns. He's curious about it. And it's like a playground to him. And I don't like the unknown. So we're just a bit different that way. And that's okay. And so we don't have to do everything together. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll freak out even just driving. Well, I'm sure a lot of couples do that, but even like
Oh yeah,
four-wheel
you Kelly
drive.
could probably share stories on that, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's that, yeah, just and especially when someone is feeling comfortable in that environment and you're not, it's almost like I feel like I have to like balance that out somehow and be like super uncomfortable to bring his over comfort to this like
Oh,
happy
interesting.
medium. And that never works. Like it just never
No.
works. So it's best to some things we don't have to do together. That's
Have
fine.
you was it always like that or have things changed over time?
No, I mean things have changed over time. I mean, life experiences, getting older, all those things. Just yeah, I don't need to be uncomfortable like that anymore. I have more authority now to say, I don't want that in my life. That's not worth it for me. I want to go home and pet my dog. Like that's what I want to be doing right now. I don't
Oh
want to
my
be
god, you and
scared.
Kelly are more and more alike the more we talk.
I
Oh,
know.
that's awesome. Yeah, I do think there is an age factor that comes there where you're just way more comfortable, like understanding what's going on and how to respond to it. And if that's like, yeah, no, this is it, then that's it. Like nobody's going to talk you into it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, where she always she's like, you need to like quit trying to convince them to do something they don't want to do. And I'm like, but I really want to do it. And she's like, it's not about you, it's about how they're feeling. And yeah, it's I've it's a challenge. It's challenging for me. I mean, I think I'm always constantly trying to, to balance that out a little bit, and also trying to make it. I think I could realize too that early on I wasn't probably not early on, but since she's felt kind of like I need to pump the brakes is like how can I set this up to be more comfortable for her? And my comfort zone is very different than what her comfort zone is, and so how do I figure that out and make this more fun versus more stressful?
Hmm.
Um, and it's hard when I don't know. Like again, my comfort zone is just so much different. So
I
yeah,
think it really starts with like one's motivation. Like you can have a super powerful voice for someone if you know they want to do something, right? Then you can support them and you can encourage them and you can give them maybe the self belief they don't have to do something. But if they're not motivated to do it to begin with, like maybe they don't want to go ice climbing that day or they don't want to do that risky thing, then your voice isn't really going to make any difference. It's probably going to go turn it the opposite in some ways.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think if the motivation is there, then you can be a super powerful tool. And if the motivation is not there, then
yeah,
it's just not there.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. I agree. And I think I back to like passions and relationship. It's like I tell my daughter, it's like you in a relationship you need to have a passion. It doesn't need to be the same passion, and the passion also can't be the individual.
Yeah.
Like you have to have these passions that are going to take you to these places that you can separate yourself and you can share those passions with that individual. But typically having the exact same passion can also create some issues there as well. But um, I always like the worst relationships are where the individual is their passion.
Yeah.
And I know I have a few friends that are in those situations, and it's can be a difficult challenge when you have that type of relationship. So,
Hmm.
um, you've done some pretty freaking amazing stuff. So I want to kind of end things a little bit here with like some of your achievements because I know you're not going to put those out there on your own. I'm going to have to ask you about these incredible achievements that you've had. Um, that I'm going to give you credit. So, but what like what is one of the biggest achievements that stands out from you from a climbing perspective?
Mm. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I brought it up already, but I think that link up was for me a big day. Just it was an all encompassing day of fighting a lot of things internally, but also being completely present and just having a really great day in the mountains. So that was a highlight day for sure. And I think always in the back of my head, it sounds silly, but passing my alpine exam, like becoming a guide, was a long process and a lot of work. And um, yeah, for anyone who goes through that, they probably feel that way too. It's like a big accomplishment in their life. It was big for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong. You were the first female to climb M13,
North American to
North
climb
American.
M11 to M14.
It's funny that you don't. That's not on your list of achievements.
I don't know because it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of prefaces there, like
Yeah,
North America, the first woman North America. It's like, all right, whatever,
I
it's
mean, I I personally I think you're probably one of the strong. You're in the top five strongest female mixed climbers in the world. Um, but I don't. You're also not necessarily, people that know you, but you're also not necessarily like a household name in the mixed climbing world. But you're like, you're climber. You're I would put you, for me personally, I'd put you in probably the top 10 mixed climbers in the world, just in general, like
that,
female
that's
or male, like, and all around, because you have been like, to be able to do the link up that you did is not an easy thing. You can climb ice really well, which, as you know, not all mixed climbers can climb ice really well. And so you can do all of the disciplines, which I think makes you that much radder, and that much, like, that's what makes you stand out to me, because you're not just this person that just wanted to dry tool M14D whatever. Like, no, you're very disciplined at that, but you're also an incredibly good ice climber and mixed climber and rock climber, and so you can balance all of those things, which I think is not necessarily, like, if you think of higher level athletes, like, you're kind of an anomaly when it comes to that. Not
well,
and in the entire world, both female or male, but definitely female for sure.
well,
Like, how
thanks.
do you think you've achieved that? Like, what do you like? What, like, is it just your drive? I know you're not. I know, you know you're not going to stand up and, wave that flag that you're awesome, but you are. But, like, what do you think has helped you with those achievements?
No, honestly, like it's really nice to hear you say all those things, but it's like I climbed with Inez like a couple winters ago, and like she is all those things that you are talking about. Like in my mind, like she's just blown away by her, and I continue to be. And I think all I see is the things that I'm not good at and that I want to get better at. Like I am not good at on sighting, going into that unknown environment. It's something I need to do a lot more of in my life to like get better at. Um, those are the people that I'm impressed with that can just kind of like walk up to something totally new and just crush day after day. Like I feel like I've got to tiptoe into things and know things more, and it's a longer process, and physically I can hang on, but mentally I'm not as strong as a lot of those people. I'd like to be, much stronger. I learned that when I went to Quebec this year, like Pont Rouge, scary, scary, scary place.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, the kitty litter. Yeah, yeah, it's great.
but and I went into it really wanting to just get better, like push myself to be okay with the unknown. And by the end of it, I felt like I learned so much, and it was so rewarding. And so I think I want to do more of that. Um, yeah, that didn't answer your question, but that's how I want to answer
Well, I mean,
it.
I think it does. I mean, it talks about the drive that's behind that for you, which I think, obviously, your self doubt and some of that, you're utilizing as fuel.
Mm,
And I think it's important for people. What I heard in that is, like, from from the outside perspective, if you think somebody's, is really confident, that there's the self-doubt that's behind it, and like the failure is always there, but you figured out how to use that failure and that self-doubt to be fuel. And so for somebody that's in the sport or thinking about it, like that's a natural feeling, even at your level, like that's a natural feeling to beat yourself up,
Mhm.
and to try to have that doubt and to be scared of failing and scared of risk and all those things, but you're figuring out how to navigate it. I think that's really healthy.
Thanks.
It's what's interesting is that we are opposite in the way, like I prefer the unknown
Mm.
versus prefer the route that I know is hard. Like I will always perform better without letting a number or something get in the way of, oh, you can't do that. Versus if I don't know, then I can't build it up in my mind. If it's M10 or M9 or M6, if I don't know, well, then you just figure it out as you go, right? Versus if I know, then I all this stuff just kind of rushes into me, and I overthink it, and then ultimately that unfortunately kind of gains a little bit of control for me for some reason.
Right.
And I think of some of that's because of climbing and Cody, and most of this, like, there's not very many people around, so you're normally it's just you and your partner. And also my focus has always been going to do new stuff
Mm.
that I've built. That's like kind of been my it's like my safety bubble is the unknown in a way, which
Mm.
is opposite for a lot of people, but for me it works. So, but I want to get better. That's why I used to do the Urate comp, because it's like completely pushes myself out of my comfort zone. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm stressed. I'm like, I don't enjoy it. I enjoy it when I'm done, but
Yeah.
then I think about all the things I could have done. Um, but at the end of the day, I know it's part of learning, and part of growing as well. So,
Yeah.
my last question, I think, what advice would you give to, I'm going to put this in two different directions. One is, what advice would you give to younger climbers, and we'll just say younger climbers, 35 and below, or somebody in their 20s? What advice would you give that individual today?
I think my biggest mm, thing I would say to them is find your own. I think we talked about find your own motivation. Like know why you're doing something and have it be yeah and really understand your reason for wanting to do things. I think it's really easy to get caught up today and um, yeah, in comparisons and you can see what everyone else is doing all the time. And I think just following your own path, your own passion, um, and doing what you love. And if that's not climbing, then find something else. I don't know. Like you
Yeah.
don't. Yeah. I'd also say though that to get the biggest reward from climbing requires effort. Nothing is free in life, and it may look like things come quickly to people, but it doesn't. It's work, and it's the more you put into something, the more you get back. Just like the more you
Yeah.
give a relationship, a climbing partnership, the more you'll get back. So um, hopefully, if that's a process you like, then climbing's for you.
Yeah. How much time a week do you spend training?
Well, I really hate that word training because I've never actually felt like it was something I did. Like I felt like
Yeah.
I went climbing or I was, it was a fun thing. So like I'm never a big fingerboard workout or I guess like once in a while I'll hang off my tools if I want to climb a certain route. But I just try to go climbing.
Huh.
I don't know,
Okay.
mostly. Yeah. Now that I'm getting older, I feel like I got to do some other stuff to just not wreck my body. That whole
Yeah,
stretching
that does come.
or
Yeah.
lifting some weights or, but mostly yeah, I just try to go climbing.
Yeah.
Mm.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm gonna turn 50 in September, so the big
50 in September.
big 50
All
coming up.
right. Do you have some goals for turning 50? Turn
Get
50 first.
there, turn 50. That's I don't know. I don't have particular goals. Nope. But I
Okay.
like nowadays. I like to kind of just see how things go and then find something that interests me instead of like picking this thing down the road that I'm not sure I'll still be into when it gets there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, just I do want to embrace winter more this winter. I feel like I've haven't really embraced winter in a while, and I'd like to just try to get back out there a bit more. We'll see.
All right. All right.
Lofty goal.
All right. I'm going to convince you guys to come down this way, but I do need to come up there too. So
Yeah, you do.
I'm very guilty of not coming up there. But when
Not
it's like
just
right in your backyard, it's just hard to go to other places.
I know.
But you know, you do a much better job of that. You got to climb some awesome places, and the
Well,
Christmas tree is high on my list. Although I
no,
hearing talking to Ryan yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about it. He's like, "Yeah, you should talk to Sarah about that because that was pretty." From talking to her, it was a pretty real experience on that big of a chunk of ice, and I think there were some temperatures that played a role there. But that chunk of ice is just like it's gorgeous,
it's
um,
gorgeous. Yeah, but yeah,
but it
I don't.
also looks like it'd be scary.
Yeah, very scary. Yeah. You should come to Quebec. You should come to
I've
Quebec.
been there. I went there the year before you guys, and I want to go back. I do really want to go back. I was blown away of how crappy that rock was. Like I didn't think it got worse than Cody Rock, but no, it definitely gets worse than Cody Rock. Um, like I remember the mixed climbing clinic, and I was like, there was a wheelbarrow of rock after 2 days of a mixed climbing clinic at the bottom. You know, like
Yeah.
what? Like, and there was one with a bolt in it. You know, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is ridiculous, but the climbing was so freaking fun. And even when the stuff chips and breaks, there's like another same hole right underneath it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I'm hoping to go there this year and um, focus a little bit more. I definitely have my goal turning 50, and I've got a couple of years. I'm 47. I'll turn 48 in December. I really want to be able to climb M13.
Okay.
Like that's my where I'd like to be.
Where would you do
So
that? Vale?
there's a route. No, I want to. I have a route in mind that I know is going to be right within that range. So I want to be able to bolt the route and then climb it. That would be my goal. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
It's,
think it's
yeah.
there. I think I just have to run less. You know, I like doing a lot of things, and that's some of my problem. Like I just, when summer comes, I almost don't want to tie in. I don't
Yeah.
want to climb. Like I just want to go do something different.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that's always in the years past has always been a really good reset for me because when season starts, like I come into it really nervous. Like a lot of times I hadn't tied into a rope for a couple of months. And so I'm not comfortable being on the sharp end. And so I feel like it's always been a really good reset for my head, which and maybe in some ways has kept me alive because I'm always second guessing. There's no comfort zone in the beginning of the season at all. Um, but I also realized that is also not a great thing for me because if I was doing more rock climbing and stuff like that, I would know I would enter the season stronger. So I'm planning on doing more rock climbing this year and dry tooling and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Rock
Yeah.
climbing's so fun. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's like it's more fun than ice climbing, even.
Well, I used to rock climb a bunch and I got really bad tendonitis. And that's when I started kayaking,
All right.
which is weird. So we'll see if it comes back. I actually have a couple of climbing days planned in the next week. So we'll see if it comes back. But I'm going to do it. I'm more focusing on the rock climbing, but I love running. That's my problem is I really enjoy running. I
Okay.
enjoy the moving through the mountains fast. And I also really enjoy like the aftermath feeling of, you know, running 20 miles or whatever it might be. I really enjoy that. So,
Runner's high.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I also know that, maybe as I get older that and I really want to continue climbing that maybe running is also not necessarily the most long lasting thing, although I'm pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So I can't complain right now, but as you know, injuries come and go. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Last one. What is the advice that you would give to female climbers looking to gain more experience.
Period. Okay.
Yeah, like in general, like I mean, it's somebody like it could be somebody that's only climbed 2 times. It could also be somebody that it could be that the woman who is has 10 years of climbing, but really wants to figure out how to they want to climb harder. They want to do bigger things, whatever that might be.
Gosh, I don't even like. I imagine that these days there's just so many more opportunities than there were before. There's clubs and groups and things to join and ways to get out there. Um, but I think in the end, just find genuine friendships, genuine relationships that you want to spend time with out there. Don't just go out with anyone who wants to show you the ropes. Like that's not the experience you're looking for. It's not just about the climbing. It's about that relationship in the mountains with someone. So that's not always easy to find, but be patient and hopefully you build those relationships, those real relationships to go do the bigger things with. I think
Yeah,
that's an important part.
I think that's really good. I mean, I can think of myself and like there's certain climbers partners that I have that I'm going to go and do bigger things with, and like the relationship is different with probably all of them. Like there's some that I just know I'm going to go. This is going to be a casual day, and I'll have a great time. And then there's others where I know like if I'm going to go do something bigger or whatever, this is the person I want to go with because our connection is that much stronger. But I feel more comfortable with them in the mountains or whatever it might be. I mean, like Ryan's one of those people for me. Like I just feel extra motivated and confident when he and I go do stuff. Like we're on this, we're on the same page with what that day is about.
Yeah.
But I think it has taken me time to learn that like all those relationships are still really powerful for me. Like they're all really positive. It's just that it's okay if they're different because they all can't be Ryan or the other people I've had. I've had other people that have had that place in my life, but then things changed for them. They got married, they had kids or whatever, and climbing no longer was a priority. And like being okay with that um, is challenging. And I can think of like even my career as a roller coaster of like there were always certain individuals and partners that were part of that. There wasn't anything that necessarily I was doing. It was who I was climbing with and who I was connecting with that helped me with those achievements and in different levels. So yeah,
Yeah. I think too, like arming yourself with knowledge and experience, like there's a lot of things people can you can do on your own to be a more proficient partner for someone else too, so that
yeah,
you're not just relying on that person to bring the experience or the ability, but yeah, take a rescue course, take courses, learn how
get a
to
guide.
yeah, learn how to navigate whatever it is. There's just a lot of things you can do to, even if you're not the one leading, you can lead the descent, let's say, or um, yeah, just ways that you're not you're you're adding to the partnership
Yeah.
while you're learning.
Yeah,
And
I like climbing with guides because I learned so much climbing with guides. Little tricks and things and like just things I would normally not think about that have been or super educational that if you're just climbing by yourself or climbing with your buddy, you're not worried about. But guides think their mindset is totally different, and that's been really really helpful for me. Whether it's teaching clinics or taking people, guiding people, is learn what I've learned from them,
right.
especially the people who are doing it day in and day out, like yourself. Like that's you're a professional. And not all people that climb really hard are actually good guides.
No.
So that's unique that you are who you are, that you can climb at the level you have, but also that you're a good guide as well. Like, because as you know, I'm sure you've seen athletes teaching clinics and you're just like, oh, no, it's horrible. But yeah, and I can recognize that. Like, I can be a good climber, but I may not necessarily be a great teacher. And but I've focused on that to try and be better at those things. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, thank you
Oh,
for your time.
yeah.
Um, it was a great conversation. Lots of takeaways for me, and always chatting with you is motivating, and just kind of gets me thinking about other things versus just climbing hard. Um, and also, there's a lot of the conversation that helped me figure out some things. I need to figure out how to really take my self doubt and failures as fuel and turn that around, and instead of just like digging a hole for myself. But I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that.
Well,
So
I've taken a lot away from this as well in terms of the way you approach things out in your neck of the woods and how you enjoy the curiosity and the unknown. So we both can get something from each other here and rub off a little bit.
perfect.
And I'm going to bug you as well for. Um, I'm hoping you might do a collaboration post with the Mountain Muskox at some point. Yeah,
Absolutely.
would love to get more folks like yourself who have a lot of respect from the community to just share a bit of your life experience too to kind of help everyone. Yeah, just be there for each
Yeah,
other.
I'd be happy to help whoever I can. I think it's an important conversation and one that we probably don't have enough of.
Mm,
And I feel like a lot of people maybe don't know how to actually engage with it. Um, but we can't. I mean, we people people passing away in our lives is not going to go away.
mm,
That's not going to stop. So I think figuring out how to arm ourselves and have the tools ready for when these things happen, and also be able to be there for those people that might be going through it, that can, because everybody goes through those things in a different way, and sometimes it's hard to recognize it. And you being there, I mean, I've been in some dark places in my time, not in where you were, but man, it's tough, and there's not a blueprint to how to navigate out of it.
yeah,
But it sounds like uh, that organization, is going to be a step forward in the right direction.
yeah,
So
I hope so.
yeah,
Thanks.
awesome. All right, thanks, Sarah.
All
Don't hang
right.
up.
Well, yeah. Hopefully we see you in person soon.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right.